Those who want to hear the voice of pagan gods in wind and thunder, who want to see fairies dance in the moonlight, who can believe that faith can move mountains, can follow the thread on the pages of this book. It is a fragile thread. It cannot bear the weight of facts and dates. Continuing my read through the Newbery Award winners, today we have The White Stag by Kate Seredy. Kate Seredy was born in 1889 in Budapest, Hungary. As a child, she spent some time in the countryside as her father and some of his friends studied the life and culture of the Hungarian peasantry. As she grew older, she studied to be an artist, but that career was interrupted with the beginning of World War I. She served as a nurse for some time until she essentially had what sounds like a breakdown, both physically and mentally. It took her some time to recover from the trauma of her experiences, but she viewed that time in her life as positive and as having taught her many things. She emigrated to the United States in 1922, where she once again pursued her career as an artist. She never married or had children, and so once she started illustrating children's books, she wanted to find a way to spend more time around children. So she opened a bookstore in her home. It was only open a year, but it gave her that chance to interact with children and get to know them better. A publisher asked her to write a book about her childhood experiences in Hungary, and that became her first novel, The Good Master. The White Stag was her second book, which was based on her father's favorite Hungarian folktale. The White Stag begins with the life of Nimrod, the mighty hunter. He has a vision of eagles representing his sons and their descendants. Just then his sons return from a hunt, and they have a story of a mystical white stag that led them to a bountiful valley. The place where they are staying now is barren and dusty, and so this is a place that they can go to live in more prosperity. Nimrod dies and passes the rule of the tribe onto his two sons, and they lead the way to this valley. While that valley is good, there's this promise of this greater promised land that they will be led to. The two sons are quite different, and you end up with this tension between two very different ways of life, and the tribe begins to split into two factions, one following one and one following the other. At this point, we also have the birth of a son, and he will be essentially Attila the Hun, though he is known at this time as Bendegoos. The rest of the story follows the three of them and the two different tribes still in tension with each other but traveling as one, attempting to find this promised land that the visions have pointed to. I have to say off the bat that this is my least favorite Newbery Award or honor book that I have read so far. While I realized that this is a folktale, and I kept trying to put my mind into the same mindset that I was in reading about Jason and the Golden Fleece or some of the other collections of folk and fairy tales that I've read, but I just had a really hard time. I did not feel like this book was written for children. These tribes are essentially fighting their way across other people's lands, slaughtering everybody in their path. And those are the main characters of the story, and it made it really hard to root for them in any way. At one point, they are in this peaceful place, and half of the tribe really starts to get worked up because they haven't battled for long enough. And yet somehow at the end of the story, mild spoiler, we're supposed to believe that now that they have found this mystical promised land, they'll be able to settle down and just become peaceful people again. And it just didn't ring true to me. There's some pretty intense and almost graphic descriptions of sacrifices to their god, as well as the battle scenes. And there are also some pretty graphic illustrations, at least for many children. If you're interested in folktales, this could definitely be an interesting read. It does seem to hold true to the versions of the folktale that I read online. It is not at all, as it says in that opening quote that I read, connected to facts. I did a little bit of research on that as well, and it diverges greatly from the actual historical accounts of Attila the Hun. I really just didn't feel like this was a good children's book in a variety of different ways, but particularly in regards to the content. I would have a hard time recommending it to any children, even ones that have read other children's books of folktales or mythologies. Essentially, not a fan, my least favorite of the ones I've read so far. Next up, we have Thimble Summer by Elizabeth N. Wright. Another slender volume, so hopefully I'll be able to get through that one pretty quickly too. Thanks and happy reading!